Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be modifying the Wimius P62 projector. Now the problem with most projectors, there's either a tiny gap around the lens where the dust gets in, or when you focus the lens, the dust gets drawn into the machine causing black spots. I've found the perfect solution to this that maybe no one's thought of or tried for themselves. My solution is a UV lens filter. Now on the Wimius P62 you will need an 82mm lens filter. You need to place it on the front. I use some hot glue, and only then will the lens be able to focus in and out without dust being drawn into the machine. Now I think all manufacturers should be adopting this idea. Having a piece of glass on the front of the projector, only then is the lens truly optically sealed, because the lens can focus up and down in a truly dust-free environment, with no risk of dust being sucked into the machine through the lens when it's powered on, or be drawn into the machine when focusing. I'm going to show you how you remove those black spots, which is dust on the LCD. On the P62 you have a sticker. You need to remove this sticker to gain access to a door, and then you need to pop off the door and put in your swab and clean the LCD. So I'm going to show you this now. Now I didn't do this because it would be too noisy for the video, but my recommendation would be to get yourself a hairdryer and go back and forth heating the label up, which will make it easier to remove. So I'll quickly speed up this video so you don't see me faffing with the label. So once we've removed the label, you can either throw the label away or just stick it on the bottom of the projector like I do. And if we ever want to sell the projector, all we have to do is replace the sticker back over the door. So this is the door that you need to remove. Get yourself a pry tool and just lift it up. As you can see, it's very easy to remove, but 9 times out of 10 you probably won't be able to do it with your fingernail. So we can either go back and forth like this with the lens swab when the projector's off, or we can turn on the projector, find the dust and remove it that way. So I'll show you this now. So now we have the projector all set up. You turn the projector upside down, open the door. As you can see, I have a picture overlay here so you can see what's going on when I stick the swab inside. Then we stick your swab in, find the dust that you're looking for, and then we just gently remove it with the swab. Don't put too much pressure on the LCD, just find the little bit that you're looking for and gently remove it. Now this is the traditional way of removing the dust and how the manufacturer wants you to remove the dust. But I found this doesn't always work, because as the door is open, the projector is statically charged, so it sucks in quite a lot more dust when you have this door open. So I don't really like doing it this way, because you tend to make more of a mess with having the door open. It sucks in far more dust. So I'm going to show you how to take the projector apart and completely clean the LCD. And with the traditional way, you might get a few big pieces out, but you're never ever going to remove the fine particles, the fine layer of dust that's settled on the LCD. The only way to truly remove that is to wipe it over. So we're going to take this projector apart and I'm going to show you how to remove the LCD. And it's pretty easy. It's just 7 screws on the bottom of the projector. So you undo these and the top just comes away, the top lid just pulls off. But you have to be very careful, because there is a connector connecting the controls on the top of the unit. So when you lift the lid off, try not to break the wire, because this wire does control all the buttons on top of the projector. And if you break these wires, the projector will simply not power on. Now I'm going to speed this video up a bit and I'm going to show you once I remove the lid. Now you will most likely need a pry tool to go all the way around the projector's casing, prising it apart. Just be careful not to break the plastic, because sometimes the plastic can be awkward to come away. So now it just pops open, just like that. Now you have to be careful of that wire I was telling you about. I'll show you this now. Lift it off gently, and as you can see there's a wire attached to the motherboard. So you need to be very careful not to rip this wire from the socket. Now I kindly suggest that you exercise with caution when performing this task, and you do this at your own risk. I can't accept any responsibility if it should go wrong when trying this cleaning operation. Just take your time and follow my steps and I think you'll be okay. Just get your 2 fingernails either side and just wiggle it from side to side until the wire comes loose. This is that wire that attaches to the buttons on top of the projector. Now there is some black sticky tape holding some wires down, so you need to remove this tape carefully that's holding the wires. Then on the motherboard we have 4 screws that we need to remove and 7 connections. So I'm going to speed up this video and then undo the 4 screws on the motherboard and the connections, and I'm going to show you a picture of what these look like that needs to be removed. Now I recommend taking a picture on your mobile phone, so when you go to put it back together you know where all the wires go. Just makes it far easier if you take a picture first before you start moving wires. So I'll speed up the video again and then I'll remove those screws, remove the connections, and then I'll show you the snapshot of my phone of what screws and what connections that you need to remove. Once we've undone all the wires, the LCD has a ribbon that attaches to the motherboard. Now in order to remove the ribbon from the motherboard, there's a tiny little black latch. You need to get your fingernail underneath the black latch and lift it up, and then the ribbon cable will slide out. Now these are the wires that you need to undo. The ones that I have circled in red, this is where the screws are, and the ones that I have circled in blue, this is where the connections are. Now there are some connections that you can leave on, which I suggest you do because they are ultra fine wires, and if you try and attempt to pull off the connections you could possibly break them. So just do the ones that I did and I think that you'll be good to go, because you can leave the ultra fine wires connected and just flip over the motherboard with them still attached. Now the reason why we needed to undo those screws and undo the connections in the first place is to gain access to the LCD, which is in the bottom of the projector. There's a little tiny screw that you need to undo, which is like a little lid. Once you've undone this screw you can pull off the little lid and then you can slide out the LCD. So I'll speed up this video again, and then the next you'll see me removing this screw and pulling out the LCD from the compartment. So we have the screw undone. Get your prise tool and pop the lid off. Just simply removes like this. So this is the lid, and the LCD is inside here. So you just slide it out in one, and that's your LCD. Now we just get a cloth and wipe this over. As you can see, mine's relatively clean. It had a few specks on the image. I'd say about 8 or 9 pieces. But yeah, I'm just going to show you how to wipe this over. We also can use a rocket blower and blow as much dust off as you can, and then slide it back into the machine, put the lid back on, and basically put it all back together again. Now we've wiped over the LCD and gave it a blow with the rocket blower. The aim of the game is to slide the LCD back inside the projector as quick as you can to limit the amount of dust that enters the machine. So now I'm going to pull it all back together and speed this video up so you don't have to sit through it. So now we have all the projector back together. What you need to do is clean the lens of the projector as best as you can to make sure there's no smears or no dust spots on the projector, and also with the UV filter. So you need to also clean the glass thoroughly of the UV filter. So just blow it like this with the rocket blower, make sure there's no dust. Try and get as much off as you can before you glue it onto the front of the projector. Now the 82mm UV filter fits around the projector's lens perfectly. Just make sure that you line it up properly before gluing around the UV filter. So now I'm going to go and get the glue gun and glue around the UV filter. So now I've glued around the UV filter. I highly suggest you guys do a better job than I did, because obviously I was rushing it for camera, but the aim of the game is to make it look as neat as possible. But now we have the UV filter stuck onto the lens, no future dust can enter this projector. In my testing, this small modification has cut dust by around 97%. Now that should be good enough for most people, but if you want to gain an extra 1 or 2%, you could also add some more filtration into where the filter sits and cover up some holes using some black tape. There's a couple of ventilation grills, both on the bottom and one on the side of the projector. I added some more filtration with this mesh and I cut some black tape and stuck it on the outside. Now that's probably extreme to most people, and I don't suggest you do that. I suggest you just stick to the UV filter on the front of the lens. That's going to cut most of your dust issues. But this is just taking it one step further and adding just another layer of filtration on the externals. So I took out the dust filter and got the mesh and cut around the mesh, so the mesh was the perfect size to match the dust filter. And what I'll do is I'll insert it into the plastic door and then pop the door back on. It just adds another little layer, and it doesn't restrict airflow too much either, because I've tested it. I've had this projector on for 10 hours using these modifications, and no dust has entered the lens and no dust has entered inside the projector, and the projector hasn't overheated or shut down on me. But as I said, this is a little bit extreme, so I don't suggest you do what I do. I was just covering all the holes up, basically the screw holes, with black tape, and as you can see there's like a little ventilation port on the bottom and there's one on the side, and I used some mesh to cover these holes too. But I don't suggest that you do this. I suggest you just stick with the lens filter. But you must not cover up this vent, because this is where it kicks all the heat out and you will kill the projector. And then I'm going to cover up these screw holes with some black tape. Like I say, this is a little extreme and I don't recommend it, but hey, they are holes and it has future potential for dust to enter the projector. Now I'm going to speed up this video whilst I cover all the holes. And now we've covered up all the screw holes, as you can see, with some black tape. Now we have two ventilation grills here, one here and one on the bottom. I'm also going to be covering up these ventilation ports with some filters too. I don't recommend you do this though. Under no circumstances cover this, because this is where it lets all the heat out. This is your heat sink and you will kill the projector. The only reason why I'm doing these last steps is because when the projector's on the surface and the fan's going, it might suck up some dust into the system. But it'd be far better if you can raise the projector on some Lego bricks so the projector isn't on the surface, so it can't suck up any dust. This is what I did, because with the projector up in the air, then the bottom isn't getting hot, so it's much better for cooling if you can raise the projector. So I'll show you this now. Now obviously you don't have to use Lego bricks, you can use anything, but this is what I did. Now I know what you're all probably thinking. Will sticking a UV lens filter impact image quality? Well, in my tests it had absolutely no impact on image clarity. Everything remained as sharp as before, and the contrast and colour saturation remained the same to the naked eye. Now obviously on paper there might be a slight difference, as adding another piece of glass to any lens element will supposedly lower the quality. But remember, we are not using an ordinary piece of glass here. We are using an optically clear piece of glass that's specially designed to go onto camera lenses. So the difference here is negligible. Now I'm going to set this projector up and show you that sticking this UV filter onto the front of this projector doesn't impact the lens from focusing up and down as it should. I'm also going to show you some video footage so you can see that picture resolution isn't affected in any way. Now I'm going to power on the projector and I'm going to focus the lens up and down so you can see that the lens motor isn't affected by having a UV filter on the front of the projector. So here we go, we're going to focus it now. So I'm going to pull the lens back and then we're going to go all the way forward. and it just stops in time. It doesn't affect the lens motor in any way whatsoever. Now obviously I've already done this modification, so you know this method works on the Wimius P62 projector. But if you plan on doing this modification for yourself on a different model of projector, measure the diameter of your lens and order the correct size UV filter for your specific projector. When your UV filter arrives, before doing this modification, just hold up the UV filter up to the projector, turn your projector on and move the lens up and down first, so you can be sure the lens will not hit the UV filter before fitting. On most projectors the lens doesn't stick out of the body of the projector, so this method will probably work for the majority of projector models. And as you can see, we still have a lovely bright image, so adding the UV filter hasn't reduced the brightness on my projector screen. So now we're going to change sources, and I'm going to switch over to my Google Chromecast, and then we're going to load up YouTube and watch some 4K footage. And as you can see, contrast ratio is still superb. We have edge to edge brightness throughout the whole frame. Look how pin sharp the stars and the rocks are. We have excellent sharpness across the whole frame. Look at the level of brightness in this image. The white levels are still outstanding, and they haven't been affected by this modification. We still have stunning clarity across the board. This Wimius P62 really is an incredible machine. Just look at this sharpness, it's absolutely outstanding. Pin sharp across the whole frame, and all with this modification. Now you wouldn't believe it, but like I say, this really hasn't affected the image in any way whatsoever. Images are still mind-blowing. And as you can see from these set of images, not a black speck in sight. There is absolutely no dust on the LCD screen. And after this modification, I don't think I'll be seeing any dust anytime soon. As long as you clean the filters regularly, I don't think that you will ever have a dust problem ever again. And to limit the dust even further, you could always buy a projector cover. These can be purchased relatively cheaply on Amazon, and when you're not using the projector, just place the cover over the top of the projector. This will limit the amount of dust that settles on top of your machine. I cover all my machines when not in use, and them covers really do work wonders. Now I must point out there might be a slight downfall to this modification. You may get some slight blooming around text images and maybe a bit of reflection, but as for picture quality such as brightness, contrast, colour saturation and sharpness, you will not notice any difference in picture clarity. Now I hope I've demonstrated to you all that this modification hasn't affected the resolution or clarity of this amazing projector. I think these crystal clear images that we are seeing speak for themselves. Thank you all for tuning in into this projector modification video. I hope you found it helpful in learning how to clear the dust from your projector and implement a UV filter to prevent future dust issues. If you found this content valuable, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on my next video, which I'll be showing you how to clean the dust on the Yaeber K2 projector. We will be removing the LCD again, cleaning the dust and hopefully fitting the same modification. So stay tuned to my next projector video. Bye for now everyone, take care, and I hope to see you all again on another video.